Hello and welcome to the Supernatural Fandom Track here at Continual. I'm your host, Gail Z. Martin, and tonight we are talking about The Roads Not Taken, Season 3. What are some of the things that could have happened but didn't in Season 3? Did the writers change their mind? What are some of the directions that maybe some of our favorite fan fiction have taken us that would have been cool to see in canon? And were there hints that they gave us in canon that they never followed up on? What? Supernatural? Leave some loose ends? Never. Anyhow, we're going to talk about all of that. But first, let's let our wonderful panelists introduce themselves, starting with Angelique.
Hi, I'm Angelique. I'm a New Zealand writer of queer fiction, and I'm currently forever finishing, it feels like, my master's thesis on Dean Winchester.
Very good. Carole.
Hi, I'm Carole Stokes. I've been watching Supernatural since season 3. I started writing fanfic in 2012, and I love talking about Supernatural. And I'm also one of the co-hosts of the podcast, So Get This, The Lore of Supernatural Fanfic on Spotify.
All right, Lola.
My name's Lola Lariscy. I'm a writer. I've been watching Supernatural since the beginning. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, but not X, because I saw the X on the wall several months ago when somebody took over. So sorry, I'm not there.
So you evolved for X is what you're telling us.
I did.
I'm Gail C. Martin and Morgan Bryce. As Gail, I write epic and urban fantasy. As Morgan, I write urban fantasy, male paranormal romance. But all my modern worlds are ones Sam and Dean could walk into and feel right at home. I fell in love with the show halfway through season 11, binge watched 11 seasons in 4 months to be ready for the launch of season 12. Fell down the rabbit hole, never hit bottom. So I'm just basically your average obsessed fan. Anyhow, let's talk about Roads Not Taken in season 3. Now, this is a short season because they were having a writer's strike then too. And, but there were definitely some breadcrumbs, some forks in the road, some options that might have gone a different direction. Let's start with you, Angelique. What jumps out to you as a road not taken for season 3?
It's a good question because it's actually one of my favorite seasons for a lot of very weird reasons. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more. What if they had tried some stuff a little more? I don't want to say esoteric because I mean that's kind of the show in a nutshell. But there were lots of things they didn't really try, even once Dean was on board to save him. So the whole saving Dean, I know he had his whole, there was the whole you can't do it because then you die and all of that. But like by season 3, we knew these guys were absolutely down with pissing off everybody, including demons. So why wouldn't they try? And it always felt to me like their attempts were really half-hearted. So, for me, it was, what if they had actually tried something different? I don't know. Tracking down somebody, I'm not making a lot of sense here because I'm kind of on the back foot with it. But what if they had actually tried a lot harder to save Dean from the inevitable, rather than the fact that he was self-sacrificing went without saying, but rather than him just being the sacrificial lamb, what if they had actually tried harder and staved it off? Would that have changed anything for the angels getting involved later? Would it have changed anything for Sam if they had actually pulled something out of their ass in the first 3 or 4 seasons like they usually do when in the first 3 or 4 episodes rather, and actually stopped it, rather than, you know, torturing us all with, oh my God, he's going to die. Not to mention, you know, seeing him strung up and
Yeah.
what if they had actually tried and done it?
Yeah, I mean, that really would have been the best way to stop the apocalypse, because then Dean never would have been the righteous man, and
Exactly.
they would have had to wait for like another generation to pull off their little family feud. Yeah. Carol?
All right. There's a lot of really juicy little places that season 3 could have taken us. I'll start with more of a little fun one. What if in Red Sky at Morning, Dean actually did hook up with Bella? What would happen then? What if he and Bella either did fool around in the room there when they tell the security guard that that's what they're doing, or after or something? Like, what would that have changed? What would that have done to the dynamic between the brothers? Because we know Sam was kind of having frisky dreams about her. Bella is certainly manipulative, you know, AF, and so could have used that to pry apart the brothers to her advantage somehow. Maybe she would have been integrated more into the hunting team, because it's not like she's unaware of the whole business. She just does it for her own personal gains. But then what if they had hooked up and she started seeing kind of the real moral side of it, where, you know, maybe she could make a buck and help people. You know, maybe the two would not be mutually exclusive. We could have seen a slightly gradually, you know, I mean, much as we saw later characters. I mean, we saw Rowena kind of go through a bit of a redemption part. We could have seen Bella go through a bit of a redemption arc. She was really a very interesting character. She just didn't, between the writer's strike and people initially just being like, we don't want romance, we don't want the guys with anybody, but really she could have been a really interesting foil to use, even if not on a regular basis, but, you know, throw her in the mix a little bit. I think there would have been a lot of interesting things to explore there. Starting with that, you know, as she hooks up with Dean, he opens this door to her to show her there's more to life than rolling around naked on set and sheets, you know, in your money.
And maybe she would have helped him a little bit, you know,
well, that's it. She had a lot to bring to the table. She had contacts. She knew people. She knew how to get things done. She would have had a lot to offer them. And then they, you know, yeah, I think it would have been an interesting prospect.
Well, if they'd have connected with Bella, we might have seen Hunter Corps.
Yes. Oh, yeah, exactly. Because you can do good deeds and turn a profit.
They could have had their own private plane.
Yeah.
They might not have had to do credit card fraud. They really could have had Hunter Corps.
Yep. Oh, that's great. Oh, plot bunny.
And I would have liked it, because one of my issues with Supernatural is the way sometimes they write Dean. They make him sound kind of misogynistic sometimes. And maybe that could have softened it a little bit. He wouldn't be always talking about, hey, honey, you know, hey, you know, girl, or, you know, just being kind of dismissive about women. She would slap that the heck out of him. And he'd be like, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that's a great point, because she was really strong. And in fact, that in season 2, that's one of the things we liked about, or season 1, when we meet Sarah Blake, that's one of the things we like about her. She's so strong and she meets them right on. And Bella was like that too. So there would have been a really good, you know, it wasn't like Dean and Sam and Bella, or Bella and Dean. It was like, you know, they would have been equals across the board.
It had to have been a romance, but Bella was a much better foil for Dean as an equal than Joe ever was, because Bella was grown up.
Right.
And they wouldn't have had to have been they wouldn't have had to have been romantic. Hell, Bella could have run off with Joe.
And in some stories she has.
Yeah, I think Dean would have approved of that.
Yeah. He would have asked to watch, but yeah.
Exactly.
Or Bella and Charlie later on, maybe.
You never know.
Yeah, yeah. Lots of speculation there.
And they could have practiced by getting Bella out of her deal. So,
Yeah.
well, you know, I heard a theory that before that writer's strike back in season 3, they were going to do more with Sam's powers and the potential for him to be the boy king. And I have read fanfic stories where Sam solves the Dean is going to go to hell problem by saying, not when I'm the boy king, I accept the crown. Now, this is my brother, nobody's touching him. That would have been a really elegant solution. The Winchesters take over hell. And Dean, if he goes there as the honored guest of the boy king.
Or the consort.
Or
Or the
consort.
consort.
Depending
Yeah,
on
that
which
gets my vote.
you're reading. Yes. But that would have certainly solved the angst that Angelique was talking about with the, oh, poor Dean, he's dying. Well, we can fix this. Well,
Yeah.
we're not dealing with these low-level crossroads demons anymore.
Go straight to the top. Straight to the top.
Right. And Sam would have made a fantastic king of hell, boy king of hell. So yeah, I would have been really intrigued to see that. And if it turned out half as well as the fan fiction, it would have given us a great ride. It would have kind of mirrored, I could see it kind of mirroring what the Tom Ellis Lucifer show did many years later, where the Winchesters come back from hell periodically to conduct their business, and maybe Dean runs the swanky bar in LA, and Sam pops up from the lower levels now and again to do whatever he does. It wouldn't have been Supernatural, wouldn't have been the show as we love it, but it could have gone some pretty interesting places.
I can see that all of this tonight is just going to give me like 15 plot bunnies.
Take notes.
It's reading season for plot bunnies anyway.
Angelique, back to you.
Sorry, I'm just flicking through the Dream a Little Dream of Me. What if they had gone a little bit deeper in there and we'd seen a few more of Dean's dreams? What if we'd seen some of Sam's? Where could that have taken us? I mean, Sam, maybe, if he didn't really want to hunt, maybe he actually had a secret desire he didn't acknowledge to take the crown. That could have been a guilty secret that they, imagine the what you could build on from there if Dean found out that his brother's deep guilty secret. They did it seasons later with Dean again, with Amara, and the fact that she was the one he wanted. But what if they'd done that then with Sam, and if he was dreaming of taking the crown? What if we had seen, they gave us a little glimpse of Dean with Lisa, but what else could they have shown us that could have opened up some storylines, some really great storylines in the show, around their parents, around not really wanting to be a hunter at all, about possible solutions for the problem they were facing. Even if Dean being Dean, it wasn't a solution for saving himself, it was a solution for saving Sam from becoming king. That was such a great episode. And I particularly liked, Bella crap. That was such a fantastic little exchange. It was such a nicely done episode with these little tidbits, and it could have been so much more, because I thought the underlying plot with the university student himself, that kind of left me a bit cold. That was, I thought it was one of the weaker A plots, but the ongoing plot with Dean and Sam there was so much potential there, and it was great seeing a little bit of backstory for Bobby. Would have been nice to see, what if Bobby had gone into Dean's dreams? Imagine having your parent figure running around your subconscious, bad enough having your brother. What did you see in there? I think that would have been fun. What if they had taken that to the extreme and actually given us some real insight to Dean Winchester and to Sam Winchester, and maybe have found something they could work with there, either around hunting in general, around solving that problem. But it was such a great opportunity to give us some backstory, which they did with Bobby, but not so much the boys.
Okay, Carol?
I'm going to continue on the dream a little dream of me thought there. First of all, what if Bobby had died? Yeah. What if Bobby had died? So much to us knowing what Bobby ended up meaning throughout the series would have been lost. Of course, at that point, we wouldn't have known what we lost. But, losing that, what grew into such a father figure, a resource, all of this stuff. What if he had died and they found themselves rudderless again? They lost Dad. They lost, ostensibly lost Missouri. She hadn't been killed yet, but they never saw her again. They lost Bobby. Would a new character have come to bear? Would there have been a new player on the board? Would they have just had to learn to muddle along themselves? That's a really unhappy what if. I love Bobby.
We would have never gotten the glimpse of heaven where he's in his cabin.
Right.
And we find out heaven is really just you in your favorite place watching Supernatural episodes over and over again.
And then my other thought about that is, what if Bella didn't steal Colt? And they've had the Colt all that time. What might that have done to their plans? What they might have attempted when. That's kind of on a much lesser scale. But nonetheless, yeah, that episode, because it had so many, like Angelique was saying, there's so much in it, had a lot of different ways it could have panned out. And so those two were the two I thought of right away from that particular episode.
Okay.
Well, I rewatched episode 1 today from season 3. And that's the one where the 7 deadly sins are actually demons. And one of the things when I talk about like Dean being kind of misogynist and kind of gross in the early years, there's a line where he says being caught with his dick in his hand. And I just don't like that. I think it's gross. So that got me thinking. So part of the episode is that the demons are influencing people to do what their sin is. And of course, Dean, he's very sexually motivated. So they do have lust there. And one of the reasons that they actually get away is because Ruby comes and saves the day. So what if Ruby never came and they ended up being bested by the 7 deadly sins, and Dean is stuck in sexual ecstasy till he dies from masturbation, stuck with his dick in his hand? That would have been a short season.
It would have had to be.
He would have had a great time.
Say that again, Gail.
He would have had to be on HBO, but
yeah, I was just gonna say, didn't he go on and do that show just in a different suit?
Say that again, Angelique. I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Sorry, didn't he go on and do that show just in a different suit in the boys?
Oh, like the boys, yeah.
Yeah.
It could have segued into a different show by Kripke.
Well,
Underwritten by Astroglide.
I like it. Yeah.
One of-
Ribbed for his pleasure.
One of the things I've always said is, what if Dean had stuck with Sam right or wrong, and the Angels and Ruby hadn't been able to drive a wedge between them? Because, okay, We know they're codependent. We know that they're each other's greatest weakness. They knew it at this time. If Dean had said, you know what, you're my brother, and this isn't the road I would have taken, but if you're going down that road, I'm going right with you, come hell or high water, and we're going together. And because he isn't going to want to be around without Sam anyhow, so why don't they just pick a lane and go together? And if Dean had gotten off his high horse in his judgment and gotten over some of John's training earlier and just been able to see, this is Sam, I protect Sam, Sam is going to claim his power, Sam is going to do this, that, and the other thing, I'm right with him. Ruby and the Angels and everybody else couldn't have gotten that wedge between them. They wouldn't have been able to, almost bring them to the brink of the apocalypse. And it would have been tremendously in character. It would have been them against angels and demons in the world. And we all would have been spared all of those seasons where they're angry at each other for the first half of the season and then make up. So I think it would have been, an improvement.
I agree.
Back to you.
So my next one is episode 12, which is Judge and Bello, and the big showdown at the jail with the Virgin and the they get arrested. And so what if they'd won?
What if they
had won? What if they beat them? What if they had just beaten them? I mean, we've seen them beat bigger odds since then. It could have been done.
Yeah. Well, if they'd have gone with Ruby's plan in the first place, which had a lower body count.
Exactly.
One virgin, whole station.
Yeah, the needs of the many, yada, yada, yada. But, there's that whole Dean's self-righteousness and, Sammy's guilt and no, we can't possibly do that. So the result was better. Arguably, no, guys. What if they had just actually done what someone asked them for a change? Instead of just being so stubborn and tunnel visioned about it.
Okay. Carol?
And again, I'm going to segue right on the end of Angelique's there on Justin Bello. Of course, my big thing is, what if Victor had lived?
Oh, yeah.
I will always speak out for Victor Henriksen, who was killed way too soon.
Along with that poor virgin girl.
Along with the poor virgin girl, poor Nancy. She never got to find out what she was missing.
Nope.
Certainly not with the deputy, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, what if Victor had lived?
He could
So
become
much.
a hunter.
Well, that's it. I mean, in my headcanon, he becomes a hunter. And I, in fact, have written to that effect, that Victor lives and becomes a hunter. He would have been, again, such an enormous asset. He's already skilled. He knows how to recognize patterns and follow people and research. And he's got, all of the skills a hunter needs. He's smart as a whip. He's easy on the eyes. Yeah, he would have been such an enormous, either to stay in the FBI, do them on the side, or even leave the FBI and just become a hunter full out. Losing him was really, really a crime.
So unnecessary.
And imagine having their own pet FBI agent who, when people say, I'm going to ring, your supervisor, they can ring an actual FBI agent. They can get, information from.
Yes. Or, here's the genesis of the X-Files, where you have FBI agents who are working on stuff that they know is a little,
X.
a little X FBI. Exactly.
Hopefully
Electra.
Elon doesn't sue us. Hey, Electra.
Electra,
Sorry,
Hi.
I'm doing another panel
That's
It
fine.
happens.
and it
Introduce-
ran late.
Right, it happens. Please introduce yourself. And we are talking about all those wonderful what ifs in season 3. So and let us know who you are and give us your what if.
I'm Elektra Hammond. I'm a writer and an editor, and I watched Supernatural from that very first episode when it very first aired till that very last episode when we all cried when it was over. Oh, a good what if. Oh, my brain is a whole nother place.
Oh,
Well,
no.
then let's get Lola's and we'll come back
Ease
to you.
me into it easy.
Okay,
All right. Well, you want me to go ahead?
yeah,
Please.
go ahead.
Okay, I rewatched Ghostfacers tonight because I just love those guys. They're so cheeky and because I love the ghost type shows anyways, and it just rags on all of the silly things about those shows. Anyways, so I didn't like the way the one brother treated Maggie, to say, this is my adopted sister. It's so rude. You don't say adopted sister, it's your sister. So I decided Maggie, the adopted sister, is going to take control of Ghostfacers, and she's going to whip it into shape, and it's going to become a success. It's going to be a worldwide phenomenon, and she's going to make a ton of money, and she's going to start the American Women of Letters. And then eventually she's going to meet Charlie, and she's going to enlist Charlie and maybe some of Jodie's girls, but I think those are more hunters. So I don't know if they'd want to be in the Women of Letters, but definitely Charlie. So Maggie and Charlie, Women of Letters. And I think that needs to be a show with, Charlie being alive.
So going back to Mystery Spot, we know that Gabriel didn't want anything to do with the apocalypse. We know that Gabriel had been in hiding from his family and his dad because he didn't agree with everything they wanted to do. So what if instead of putting Sam and Dean in a time loop to convince Sam that nothing he could do would ever save Dean, what if he took them off the board for the apocalypse by putting them in a time loop where they went off hunting or had a little cabin up in Montana, and as far as they knew, it was just every day going on and on, but it was a loop, and therefore they were out of reach of the other angels who wanted to manipulate them into starting the apocalypse and run the clock down. Sam and Dean are perfectly happy out here hunting and never getting involved with the angel wars in this lovely ongoing fantasy orchestrated by Gabriel. Gabriel gets to majorly flip off heaven by completely preempting the war. And we get rid of all that drama seasons early. And then when they all finally give up or pick somebody else to be the sacrificial lambs, he brings Sam and Dean back and they go, what was all that about? Never mind, it wasn't worth explaining. And they sat out the whole war. There was a lot of that war. I could have gone for that. Back to you, Elektra.
Well, they've got all the interesting stuff going on with Ruby this season. What if they'd found out some stuff earlier this season and they'd managed to undemon Ruby this season and turn her into a real person? Because this is the Ruby that really seemed like she wanted to help, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. This is the Katie Cassidy blonde Ruby.
Yeah. What if they'd actually turned her back into a human and made her part of the gang, and it had been the three of them running around, fighting demons and creatures, and she'd had Sam's back for reals.
I mean, they did it with Crowley. Why not?
Yeah.
Feed her
And
some human
only
blood.
earlier.
Yeah.
And,
like that.
and her and Sam become an item.
That would have been cool.
That would have been so cute.
Yeah, it would have been cute.
Angelique, back to you.
I'm sort of sidetracked now by the thought of what if Ruby had been being human. Hmm.
Well, go ahead and think about it. We'll go over to
Yeah,
Carol
yeah.
and we'll come back to you.
Yeah.
So what if in the fabulous episode, A Very Supernatural Christmas, which is so funny, poignant, so much great stuff goes on there. And then in the end, we have the wonderful, heartwarming scene where Dean returns to the motel room and Sam has decorated it for Christmas tree, you know, decorated by air fresheners, a little, sad little banner, eggnog that is heavily spiked. And it's just so lovely. And the brothers have come together, like, to have this, despite the darkness awaiting them, they're having this lovely little moment. What if Sam hadn't done that? What if Dean just came back and there's the room? And Sam's like, here, want a beer?
No, they would have been outside sitting on the car looking at the water, having a beer, as they always did.
I know, but what if
It's Christmas, have a beer.
What if they hadn't had that beautiful moment where they kind of get to enjoy the fact that, they're alive, they're brothers, they get to have a moment after killing, hilarious pagan gods. Yeah, kind of bleak, I know. Sorry about that.
No, it would have been very bleak.
Yeah.
I think it helps us in 15 years of bleakness. I think it helps us to have those moments where we remember they are connected. They are brothers. Yeah.
So it makes you wonder, though, if they hadn't had that to then move ahead. I mean, I feel like Dean, of course, was so strengthened by the fact that he knew his brother loved him and did this for him, and that the world was not completely dark and everything. And, even Sam got outside of his own head for a little bit because he's like, well, I'm going to do this for my brother. So instead of obsessing about my brother's dying, he was like, I'm going to do this for him. Yeah. What if they hadn't had that little breather there where they could just kind of be and enjoy?
Well, you know what the Robert Singer in The French Mistake said, you want to tell the fans they don't get the brother moment sitting in the car having the heart
Good point.
Drinking the heavily spiked eggnog.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sorry about that.
I know I brought this up. Well, I'm not sure mine is any less bleak, but I know I've mentioned it before, but in Time Is on My Side, they go chasing down this doctor who has a recipe for immortality. It just means using pieces and parts of other people to keep replenishing your body when things wear out. What if Sam and Dean could have looked at this and said, we just need to ethically source the parts and get to be friends with some ambulance drivers and get first crack at the freshly dead bodies, basically like transplant harvesting, and have somebody on the inside to say, okay, Dean's having a little problem with his liver here, we need new liver, or hey, somebody's having some problems with their spleen, whatever it is, and basically put in an order for replacement parts on a underground organ harvesting scenario, where they aren't killing people to get this. They aren't hunting people down in back parking lots to take their parts. They are sourcing from the newly dead, immediately recently dead. It would still have to be fresh. But if you had somebody on the inside, it could work like a transplant thing. And they would have been patchwork eventually, but it would have gotten over all that ethical quandary that Dean had. No, I don't want to be that. Then it just would have been, well, Dean, 150 years from now, you might not be quite as pretty, but we'd still be together and we'd still be alive and we wouldn't be hurting anybody. So I think that was another one of those knee-jerk reactions of Dean's where he's falling back on John's, it's supernatural, so it must be bad, where they didn't really stop and think about it to say, we could make this work and not become monsters in the process.
It could be lab grown. That's the thing now with meat, lab grown meat. Why not lab grown replacement human parts?
Okay, this is dark, guys. This is very, very dark.
Okay.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm trying to figure out if I can grow Dean in a lab.
Yeah, that's a good thought. We just
They
need
do
the
that with
blueprint.
Dark Angel. I think we've already
They
had
might
this
have.
series.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
did.
we've had the Stein family do this, and it didn't go well.
Yeah, but we already cloned Jensen in Dark Angel, so I think we've
True
been-
enough.
It's on a lot somewhere in Vancouver, though.
That's right.
Probably have to get to it.
Angelique, anything that occurs to you?
Yes, long distance call. What if it actually had been John? If it really had been John and he did have a solution?
Yeah.
What if John had simply piggybacked on the bad stuff that was going down to get a message to Dean? How different would things have been then? I mean, it would have changed some of the dynamic between the brothers and their father quite early on. Might have gone a long way to helping John's redemption arc too.
John needed help. John needed all the help he could get for
Yeah.
that.
So what if it actually had been John?
Okay.
And not just a demon messing with him.
Lola?
Okay. All right. The kid's all right. So, for a while we thought this little kid was going to be Dean's kid because he had like black leather jacket and he listened to the same kind of music and he seemed to have the same kind of 50s cruiser haircut. And, he just kind of acted like him. Well, we find out it's not his son, boo-boo, whatever. But what if it was? And he decides to change his name. So he's going to go with Ben Winchester, but then he says, I'm going to change my name. I'm going to make it really cool. So he changes his name to Ben Kenobi Winchester. Ben Kenobi, Star Wars. Why not? If you're going to change your name, change it all the way. So Ben Kenobi Winchester. And sometimes people call him Ben Kinwin because it's fun. And he grows up, he's influenced by Dean and Sam, and he becomes the best hunter in the world. He's renowned. And then when he dies, he turns into a Force ghost because he's Ben Kenobi, and he guides all future hunters.
Okay. Saint Ben Kenobi, because he is a spiritual guide. Okay.
Very good.
Elektra?
I assume you covered Agent Hendrickson
Living.
before I got here.
But you can still say stuff.
Well, I just want to make sure you covered hey, he became a hunter, because I assume you went there, because that's fairly obvious.
I will always go there.
We always wanted him to do that. How about in bedtime stories when they find out that Crowley holds Dean's contract? They get his ass up there right then, and they start in with all of the really, really cool Crowley stuff. And we get all of that starting really early on. All of the interaction between, Moose and not Moose. And them having, the King of the Crossroads on speed dial, and they have this great relationship that they've all built up. And when Crowley becomes King of Hell, he calls them and he says, I got a promotion. I can, think of the stuff we can do. You guys, outside and me down in hell, we can work together. We're going to own this show.
And that goes right along with Sam claiming being the boy king of hell, and then delegating a lot of stuff to Crowley.
Crowley is his admin.
Crowley's his
I
admin.
like it.
Yeah. Carol?
No, if Sam is the boy king of hell, then Crowley is Bobby for him.
Yeah.
What?
Crowley, yeah. He would be the major domo who handles all the day-to-day stuff. So Sam
Yeah,
and Dean
exactly.
can sit on the throne
And looks all the stuff up and
His PA.
He's the COO. He's the chief operating officer, whereas Sam is the CEO.
right. Carol?
In Fresh Blood, what if Gordon had escaped? What if Vamp Gordon did not have his head popped off by Sam and some barbed wire, but had managed to elude them? And so you never know down the pike, when is he going to pop up again? Presumably at the worst times, to plague them and attack them and continue his unholy vendetta against Sam. And, always has some kind of new plot. In the funny sense, it could kind of be like Boris Badenoff on Rocky and Bullwinkle, where he always has some evil plan. But really, I mean, Gordon's a super dark character. He's, he hates Sam so much, and then he becomes a vamp, so he has like no moral sense left at all. And, he could have been a really scary and intimidating foe, especially he's in the wind. They never know when they're going to see him. They could be in the middle of, whatever, and now crap, not only are they in the middle of whatever, they have Gordon. So that could have been some bad stuff going on there.
no, what if they helped Gordon out and they turned him back so that he didn't stay a vampire, and they're like, okay, now we're even.
I think he had already fed by the time they got around to him. He'd already been snacking.
What if he hadn't, and they got to him before he fed, and they cured him, and they said, okay, we cured you, everything's even, you're not going to chase Sam anymore. And he said, hell no. Sam is still like, the Antichrist. Of course I'm going to keep chasing him. You lose.
Yeah, either way, there's no way that Gordon comes out to be a good guy.
Well,
pretty much no. He's going to chase Sam until the end of time.
Yep.
what
Until
if
you cut off his head.
What if Gordon gets a new insight, having become a vamp himself,
To
and
how they're not.
that and has this whole new epiphany about monsters, and decides that he was wrong. He stays a vamp, but he
goes
teams
to
up,
live with Lenore.
but he teams up with Victor Henriksen
Oh,
as hunters.
Oh yeah.
Victor and the Vamp,
Badass hunter team.
new on CW this fall. Victor and the Vamp.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
I like it.
And then my other what if, since we're at the end of our time, is what if poor Corbin hadn't died and
I
he had run
know.
off with the ghost facer that he was in love with, and then the other guy got to be there in his wing chair in front of the garage door and could have run his ghost facer thing, and meanwhile Corbin and his
It was
true
so
love went off
sweet.
and did something less
know.
ghosty.
Gay
All
love
right,
pierces the veil of death.
That's right.
He pierces
All right.
something. Sorry.
That could be the through line on a lot of books I've read.
Yeah. That's a scene from the episode, because I rewatched it today and that's what they said.
All right, everybody, we have blown through our time as usual, but before we wrap up, let's go around and let everybody know where we can find you online, starting with Angelique.
You can find me on all the usual social media places and on my website, angeliquejurd.com. I'm always under just my name. And I'll see you there.
All right, Lola?
My name's Lola Lariscy. You can find me anywhere. You can Google me and it's going to be me and some dead old ladies who come up. And one day I'll be one of those dead old ladies.
Okay.
And then there'll be a new Lola Lariscy to take over.
Elektra?
I'm Elektra Hammond. You can find me at untilmidnight.com or look for me on Mastodon. I'm Elektra at wandering.shop.
Very good. Carole?
I'm Carole Stokes on Facebook. You can find me on many, many continual panels and in the continual group, also in the TFWNC Supernatural group. I'm true_firesign10 on Twitter. I'm firesign10 on Instagram, and all of my stories are under firesign10 on AO3, mind the tags. And as Ellis Colton, I will be publishing my first male romance later this year.
Very good. And I'm Gail Z. Martin, Morgan Bryce. You can find my websites at the .com of both of those names. All my social media is under one or both of those names. So if you spell them right, you'll find me. I do run the Supernatural TFWNC group on Facebook. I'm a columnist for the Winchester Family Business blog, but most of the time you can find me here on Continual. So thank you so much to our wonderful, wonderful panelists. And thanks to all of you for watching and listening. There will be more Supernatural coming up soon on Continual, so we'll see you online.